GENG versus TES. One of the best bot lane at Worlds versus one of the worst bot lane at Worlds. And this game, as you will see, won't be anything different. Both Jakilov and Hang will make numerous mistakes in this bot matchup, and one of those mistakes in particular, which is gonna be a very, very low level mistake, will make it so that they are not able to play the game. So, let's get into this VOD and let's talk about what we are supposed to see. So, first of all, we have Rakan, Kai'Sa into Yunara, Leona. What does it mean for the exchanges? What does it mean for positioning? What does it mean for wave management? So, blue side is always going to be winning extended exchanges, okay? That's the first point. And the second thing is that short exchanges are very much situational. What I mean by that is that there needs to be specific conditions in place in order for blue side to be able to win them. Pretty much the main condition is that both Leona and Yunara are able to hit the same target without enemy 2 champions being able to hit back onto Yunara. So let's say that Leona engages onto Rakan, and then Yunara is in this position, and she chases down Rakan, looks to hit him as well. This, in particular, could be bad, assuming that Kai'Sa is in this spot, because Kai'Sa will be within the range of hitting Yunara, as Yunara looks to hit Rakan, on which Leon just engaged. So in that instance, the short exchange would be losing. But if we switch positioning of Jackie from here to here, it's a lot different story, because as Leon engages in, Yunara can walk up and hit as well, and Kai'Sa cannot target Yunara. So in that case, the positioning is more beneficial for blue side, and therefore blue side is just going to win the exchange. Simple as that. So let's see how they exactly are going to approach level 1, and let's talk about what they should be doing. First thing that you can see is that Duro is right away placing a ward in this second bush. I don't love it personally, but I will get into that later. What you need to know though is that blue side should be retaking this bush right away. Why is it important that they retake this bush? The reason why they need this bush is because by having access to it, you make Kai'Sa's positioning a lot worse relative to the wave. Because now what's gonna be happening for this first wave, as blue side is not retaking the second bush in which Rakan is standing, Kai'Sa will be allowed to play on this side of the lane, near her bushes, and near the wave at the same time, meaning that she can both, let's say, last hit minions from this position, and then run into the bush and create distance between herself and the blue side bot lane, and blue side bot lane cannot do much about it. Which is why, once again, blue side, by having access to the second bush, is gonna be able to force Ruler to play on the opposite side, and because he's now playing on the opposite side, you have a much easier time closing distance, because there is no bush in which Ruler can hide, and on top of that, there is a wall here, which will become important as we'll get into later into this VOD. And before I keep on playing, let's talk also about the wave management. Blue side needs to go for a third wave crash, and instead of explaining to you why third wave crash is better than second, let's look at what the second wave crash will lead to, because TS, as you will see in a second, will go for the second wave crash approach. Instead of me explaining everything, let's just watch the VOD. So blue side is still refusing to take access over the second bush, Duro is allowed to hold onto it, Ruler is refusing to hit the wave at all because he wants the wave to push as fast into him as possible. He wants the second wave crash, for a good reason. And blue side finally looks to step up, but this threat was not real, okay? Why was this threat not real? Because the short exchange, which is the only type of exchange they can take at level 1, is not actually winning. Why is it not winning? Because there's 3 range minions alive still, and on top of that, Jackie's positioning on Yunara is not good enough. So let's say that on this timer, as Ruler looks to last hit this minion, Jackie were to keep on clicking forward, and then Leona engages in with E. This exchange wouldn't be winning because red side ranges would turn onto Leona. Rakan is nearby to follow it, but most importantly, Jackie cannot join in time. And then another important point is that Jackie would get targeted back if he were to overextend by both Kai'Sa and Rakan. So this exchange would be just net losing for blue side if Hang were to engage on this. So basically, Ruler is panicking a little bit by making Duro last hit this minion for him. On the other side, I am quite confused by why blue side is still refusing to take this bush, or this bush. Because that's what they should be doing once again in order to create any type of pressure for those exchanges. So now blue side goes back to playing Kakari. For the first time this game we see Hang taking over the second bush, which is very important. He doesn't sweep it for whatever reason, and Duro is just baiting him at this point. The thing is that he's probably overextending because he doesn't have W, and Hang knows this because Duro used his Q at level 1 in this tri-bush right here. And so Hang should be just going in with E. Like, Duro is inting. He wouldn't be mispositioning though, and that's important to mention, if Ruler's positioning was different, okay? If Ruler, instead of being here, which he should never be by the way, was here, then yes, Duro is playing well. Because if Hang were to walk up and hit his E, Kai'Sa would be able to turn around, and once again, Jackie would not be able to follow in time. But then we can go even further with this. What happens if Jackie is here, and Hang is here? Even when the Ruler is there. Then, this exchange, where Hang goes in with E, is winning for blue side. Because Ruler, from this spot, cannot target Jackie effectively and both Hang and Jackie can hit Duro. So if we exchange HP in a way where Kai'Sa and Rakan are hitting Leona, but Yunara and Leona are hitting Rakan, Rakan is going to end up losing much more HP, because that's just how much these champions deal when it comes to the damage in short exchanges, and how much damage they take themselves. So yeah, basically Duro's mispositioning. For whatever reason, Hang did not exactly want to go in on this timer. And now we are starting to see the problem in Ruler's positioning, where Ruler is now being kept away on this side of the lane, where he has to stand very, very close to this wall, basically meaning that if Hang were to click forward like that, there's only so much distance that you can create running in parallel, and at some point you're gonna have to deviate like that and run in a less efficient pathing, meaning that Leona is going to be eventually able to land her E. And we are about to see an attempt like that from Hang and Jackie. Now Hang presses his lens, which I have no idea why he exactly did it on this timer. Doesn't make any sense to me at all. Also, I'm pretty sure that he was sitting on 2 lenses for like 20 minutes. Yes, because he started with a lens. When you start with a lens, you have 2 lens sweeps, which in turn means that he's just not able to refresh his lenses, because he's refusing to use them at level 1, which is, by the way, exactly the reason why you start with a lens, because you want to use it once at the start of the laning phase, and then the second time shortly after the first wave. That's typically what happens. Or sometimes even during the first wave, depending really on what enemy bot lane does. But getting away from that, we have this lens usage, and then Hang goes for this exchange with a Z. This is good. Ruler is mispositioning. At the same time, he cannot position much better. There's not much else he can do, because blue side has access to this bush. So the best thing he can do is stand on this side. And he has to accept that at some point, he will have to either drop minions or he will get engaged on by Hang. He chose to take the risk where Hang lands a C, and he dodged it. So there is no threat anymore. One thing you could also argue is that here, Jackie should be positioning closer to this side, which is true. Jackie wants to be matching Kai'Sa in opposition outside of the lane, meaning that he's standing in a straight line rather than across from the wave, especially on timers on which Hang wants to look for his E, because then you're just going to have a much easier time closing distance. And also because of his positioning in this spot relative to Rakan, he would create a much greater distance between himself and Rakan, and therefore he would be in a spot where he can hit Kai'Sa without Rakan being able to hit him. So there's like a lot of concepts like this surrounding bot lane. These concepts might sound easy when I'm talking about them, but they're a lot more difficult to execute in a game. Which is why I also understand that they might be failing at it. What I don't understand though is the second wave crash. Because now what's gonna end up happening is the third wave will meet in this spot. You're gonna have to hard push it. And then the fourth wave meets here. So what you ended up with, effectively as blue side bot lane, you end up with no timers where you can find an extended exchange because of your wave management. So you're making it as easy as possible for red side to survive. Whereas if you went for a third wave crash, you would have 2 separate timers. You would have the first wave, the second wave, and you would not have so much of the third wave, but you would have 2 timers. Because during a third wave crash, the second wave meets closer to this spot, which is a lot easier to play around than having the third wave here. And then the second wave under turret. So we have the second wave crash. Here, Duro is mispositioning during this crash. Duro should be matching Yunara because he wants to go in with his W as he hits level 2 on Yunara's auto attack animation. So this is just like a mistake by Duro. Jackie, on the other hand, is playing perfectly. Duro continues to misposition. And now Jackie is going to poke Duro a couple of times and use it to pull minion aggro from under the turret. He pulls minions all the way back here, which doesn't make much sense because you're going to have to hard push this wave either way. Let's say that they think that they can play for an exchange first and then hard push the wave, which might be true. Then what you would expect them to do around this wave pool is take over this bush, hold on to it, and then play for exchanges. Where Jackie is standing, let's say, here somewhere, and then Leona is in this bush. Let's see if they actually do it. So Leona is in this bush indeed. She has a sweeper. Jackie is slowly hitting the wave. But there is no exchange that is being looked for by Leona on this minion last hit, which is already odd, because why the fuck did you pull the wave if you're not gonna play around it? And then Leona is also not playing through this bush, which would make it infinitely easier for her to find exchanges. Now finally they press the sweeper. The problem being though, that now the fourth wave also meets close to blue side's turret. Because blue side, instead of hard pushing this wave, as I've said, was slow pushing it. Why are they slow pushing it? I have 2 theories. One is that they are really bad at the game and they don't know what they're doing. They're not thinking about anything they're doing on the map, which is probably what's actually happening. And the second theory is that they are looking for exchanges. But then for that theory to be true, that they're actually looking for exchanges on this third wave being here and they think it's good, for that to be true, they would need to play through this bush, but they didn't play through it. So I think that they're just like not using their brain. That's my theory. So the second wave crash led to a third wave meeting here, and then they have to hard push it, because as they look to slow push it, as you see now, then the fourth wave meets here, even closer to GENG's turret. And that in isolation, meaning that outside of what's happening on the other side of the map, is bad even of itself, because you're supposed to play for an advantage. The way you play for an advantage is with the wave in the middle of the lane, looking for long exchanges. But given what's happening on the map, it's even worse, because their jungler is pathing to top, and Jarvan was pathing to bot. So now you're giving the perfect wave positioning for Jarvan to gank you on, when your jungler is pathing to top. To make matters worse, this laning phase, you have full control over the lane state. You chose to have the fourth wave meet here. It wasn't red side mind controlling you. You're just inting. So this game is an insanely low quality game, not necessarily because they're like bad mechanically or whatever. That doesn't really matter in this laning phase. What matters is wave management and positioning relative to that wave management. Both of those things sucked for blue side. Red side couldn't even make any mistakes, even if they tried. Like, they would have to really try to make mistakes. Rakan made like a small error that wasn't punished, but in reality, there's just not much that he can do wrong because of how bad blue side is playing. So now we have the fourth wave meeting here. Jackie walks up to the river as well, places a ward of his own. The problem being, though, that Jarvan is going to be able to avoid this ward, as you will see. And the fourth wave continues to be in a shitty position. If they try to hard push it now, first of all, they don't have enough time. And even if they did, red side would just hold it in front of their turret. They can tank it for a little bit. So given all of that, what's the best thing they can do is probably just look to hard push it either way, go back, reset, and then run top, or something like that. And just accept the loss. That's literally it. That's probably the best idea on the map right now. But let's see what they do instead. So they continue to allow this wave to stay on the red side of the lane. Now GENG is gonna be fake pressuring, as you will see. Hang goes for an E exchange, which isn't really timed with anything, so I don't get it myself personally. Also, the positioning around it is not great. If you really wanted to go for the exchange, you would match her in this spot, or you would play through this bush. But what's actually happening in practice, probably, is Hang is trying to bait that Pantheon is behind them. I think that's the only thing he's doing. So now GENG is continuing to pressure. TES is somewhat respecting because they know that Jarvan is nearby. And then GENG misplays totally this gank. In reality, Dracula probably should have died. And he would have died if they just timed their CCs properly. So instead of having Dura engage on Leona, and then Canyon engage on Jackie, they should have probably just both engaged on Jackie. So that one can waste his flash and then the other one can follow up with a flash of his own. But whatever. This gank doesn't really change anything. The wave is still in a shitty spot for blue side, and blue side cannot really do much about it. So this game continues to be an absolute disaster for TES. And this is where I will end this VOD, okay? Review. Because nothing interesting will happen. TES will continue to get cucked. Pantheon is gonna have to reset right away, I believe. He's gonna have to open bot and head them out with this bot wave. And at some point, blue side is gonna be able to get back to playing the laning phase. However, they are continuing to not be able to play for an advantage because GENG has a wave in a position where blue side cannot find any extended exchange. So blue side bot lane is dog shit. Not because of their mechanics, not because of whatever you wanna mention, but because they don't understand how to do basic wave management and how to position themselves around it. That'll be it. I've enjoyed reviewing it as always. And yeah, bye bye.